The digital dollar project actually doesn't advocate the US to deploy a central bank digital currency. We're not at that stage. What we do advocate is for the United States not to play second fiddle to our economic adversaries like China and our economic competitors like Europe in design, development, experimentation with central bank digital currency. We want to make sure that the values of a democratic society are in the digital money of the future. Whether the US deploys it or not remains to be seen. The use cases need to be established. But our core foundational belief is money is as much a social construct as it is a government construct.
Right.
And free people and free society shouldn't leave the design of money just to the government. We have a role to play. We have something to say. We, the citizens of a free society, have something to say about what values should be encoded in that money. We know China's digital yuan, as sophisticated as it is, and it is sophisticated, will be a surveillance tool, will be a censorship tool. We need to make sure that if the United States deploys a digital dollar, it is not. It is a tool of a free people, and it reflects values of freedom of speech, First Amendment, and freedom of privacy in the Fourth Amendment. And so the Digital Dollar Project is a free society, is a private sector initiative to do some early exploration of central bank digital currency. So when and if, and my own personal belief, it's more of a question of when than if the United States adopts a digital currency. The groundwork has been laid through a lot of free market, private sector experimentation. And so that's a preface to updating you on the work of the Digital Dollar Project. It's a joint venture between the Digital Dollar Foundation, which is a 501c3, a charitable organization that I established, and Accenture, the global consulting firm. The Digital Dollar Project now has a full-time staff led by Jennifer Lassiter, who's out of CFPB and the FDIC, and she's a terrific executive, really giving a lot of energy and drive to the initiative. Last year, we announced a series of 9 pilot projects, and you can read about these at digitaldollarproject.org, that we wanted to experiment with. Everything from retail use cases, use by underserved communities, use of digital currency in global transactions, global remittances, use by small businesses, but all the way over to the wholesale side, used in large transactions. And putting our action where our mouth is, in April of this year, we announced the first of those experiments, and this one was a joint venture called Project Lithium with the Depository Trust Clearing Corporation. And as your listeners certainly know, the DTCC basically operates the plumbing of Wall Street.
Right.
The securities are traded, whether they be debt or equity, are all settled and cleared through systems operated by the DTCC. And so we at the Digital Dollar Project partnered with them to examine whether a central bank digital currency could lead to certain efficiencies in the settlement of clearing and securities. The securities today are settled basically once the day is over and all the buying and selling. At the end of the day, people in the back office go back and figure out, okay, who's up, who's down, who's bought more, who's sold more. And that is end of day or someday 2-day or 3-day settlement, depending on the marketplace. The holy grail in security settlement is to go to what's called atomic settlement. That is not at the end of the day, but transaction by transaction. If we could get there, that will improve lower costs. It'll improve efficiency. It will save on collateral. It's a huge advantage that as we go into a digital world that many people have thought about. Well, what we've experimented in Project Lithium is how having a digital currency can actually further that opportunity to get to atomic settlement. And later this month, actually early in October, the Digital Dollar Project will be releasing its report alongside the DTCC on the results of Project Lithium. And I think your audience will find that very interesting reading, and we'll certainly let you know when that paper has been delivered. Get a copy on your website.
Yeah, I was
Um,
actually going to ask you about that if there were any results, but sounds like we got to wait just a few more weeks or so.
yeah, the results are really quite interesting. So
Mm,
just wait a few more weeks, and we'll have a lot to say on that. And maybe we'll come back on your show and talk about it and answer some of your listener questions.
absolutely.
The second thing we did was in June, we announced something called the FinTech Open Source experiment with the FinTech Open Source Foundation, Hyperledger, and the Digital Dollar Project to look at how can we develop a community dedicated to experimentation, information sharing, and discussions around CBDC. The real opportunity there is to bring more people into this debate on that basic premise that I began with. Money is as much a social construct as it is a government one. That
Mm,
time is now for the private sector to engage with what a CBDC might look like. And that brings us to the last opportunity we announced just last week. It's our technology sandbox where we've invited technology vendors that believe their technology may have a role to play in developing a central bank digital currency to actually experiment with it. And so we're working with a number of firms that have some technology offerings, including the digital assets, STAML and Ripple, on using the technology to see whether some of those would support central bank. As you know, there's many central bank digital currency experiments going on around the world. The
mm,
Atlantic Council counts over 100 of them, including 19 of the G20 economies. And they're using many different technologies to experiment with the digital pound, the digital euro. And we want to make sure that the same experimentation is taking place here in the United States.